the story of a rare hypercar, a world-famous driver, and a bold YouTube builder comes together in a way that feels almost unreal. At the center of it all is Lewis Hamilton, one of the most successful drivers in Formula One history, and his incredibly rare car, the Pagani Zonda 760 LH. This is not just any supercar, it is a one-of-one machine, built specifically for Hamilton himself. When someone of his level wants a car, they don't just buy one from a showroom. They go to a company like Pagani and ask them to create something completely unique. That is exactly what happened here. The Zonda 760 LH was built with a powerful naturally aspirated V12 engine producing around 760 horsepower, and unlike many modern supercars, it features a gated manual gearbox. This alone makes it special because most high-end cars today use automatic paddle shift systems. Hamilton wanted a more raw and mechanical driving experience, something that connects the driver directly to the machine. The car was also finished in a beautiful purple carbon fiber, making it stand out even more. Every detail, from the interior to the exterior, was chosen by Hamilton. It wasn't just a car, it was a personal creation. He even said at one point that it was the best-sounding car he ever owned, which says a lot coming from someone who has driven some of the fastest machines in the world. However, there was also a downside. Hamilton admitted that it was one of the worst handling cars he had ever owned. That is a surprising statement, and it adds an interesting layer to the story. A car that looks amazing and sounds incredible, but is difficult to control, can quickly become dangerous. And that danger became real when the car was involved in its first crash. Back in 2015, while living in Monaco, Hamilton was driving his prized Pagani through the streets when he crashed it into a parked car. The exact details of how it happened are not completely clear, but photos from the scene showed serious damage to the front of the vehicle. The carbon fiber body panels were broken, and the front suspension looked heavily damaged. For most people, crashing a car like this would be a financial disaster, but for Hamilton, it was more of an embarrassing moment than anything else. He had the resources to repair the car, and it was likely sent back to specialists, possibly even Pagani itself, for restoration. Fixing a car like this is not simple or cheap. Pagani uses very advanced materials and custom-built parts, which means repairs can cost a huge amount of money. Still, the car was repaired and returned to working condition. After some time, Hamilton decided to sell it. Despite its crash history, the car sold for an incredible price, around $10 million. This shows how valuable it was, not just because of its design and performance, but also because of its connection to Hamilton. For collectors, owning a car that belonged to a Formula One legend adds a lot of value. The story of the car became part of its identity, but the story didn't end there. The car found a new owner in Wales, someone who clearly understood its importance and uniqueness. Everything seemed fine, until disaster struck again. Years later, the same Pagani Zonda 760 LH was involved in another crash. This second accident brought the car back into the spotlight, but for all the wrong reasons. Early reports suggested that the damage was again quite serious. While it was a relief that no one was badly hurt, the condition of the car raised many questions. A car that has now been crashed twice becomes much more complicated to deal with. It is no longer just a rare collectible, it becomes a risky project. This is where the story takes an interesting turn and introduces Matt Armstrong, a YouTuber known for buying damaged supercars and bringing them back to life. Armstrong has built a strong reputation by taking on projects that many people would consider impossible. He has worked on brands like Lamborghini, Ferrari, and McLaren, often starting with cars that are heavily damaged. His videos show the full process, from buying the wrecked vehicle to rebuilding it piece by piece. This has made him very popular among car enthusiasts. But even for someone like him, this Pagani could be his biggest challenge yet. A one-of-one car with a history of 2 crashes is not something you can easily fix. It requires not just skill, but also access to rare parts, expert knowledge, and a huge budget. The idea of Armstrong taking on this project is exciting, but it also raises an important question. Does it actually make sense? Rebuilding a car like the Pagani Zonda 760 LH would come with many challenges. First, there is the issue of parts. Because this car is unique, many of its components cannot simply be ordered from a catalog. They would need to be custom-made or sourced directly from Pagani, which can take a long time and cost a lot of money. The carbon fiber body alone could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair or replace. Pagani uses very high-quality materials, often similar to those used in aerospace engineering, and matching the original purple carbon fiber would be extremely difficult. Then there is the question of structural damage. Carbon fiber does not behave like metal. When it is damaged, it does not bend, it cracks or shatters. If the car's main structure, known as the monocoque, has been damaged in both crashes, it could be very hard to repair safely. Engineers would need to carefully inspect the entire car to make sure it can be rebuilt without compromising safety. If the damage is too severe, the only option might be to build a new chassis, which would be incredibly expensive. The gearbox is another concern. This car has a rare manual transmission that was specially made for it. If any part of it is damaged, finding replacements could be nearly impossible. All of these factors make the project very complex and risky. The financial side of this situation is just as important as the technical challenges. If the car ends up in the salvage market, it could sell for anywhere between a few $100,000 to over $1 million, depending on its condition and interest from buyers. On top of that, the cost of rebuilding it could easily reach $500,000 to $1 million or more. That means the total investment could be very high, with no guarantee of profit. However, there is also a potential upside. If the car is restored properly, it could be worth several $1 million again. Its history, including its connection to Lewis Hamilton and its dramatic story of crashes and recovery, could actually make it more valuable to certain collectors. People are often willing to pay more for items that have a unique story behind them. In addition, for someone like Matt Armstrong, there is another important factor to consider: content. A project like this could generate millions of views on YouTube. The advertising revenue, sponsorships, and growth of his channel could help cover a large part of the costs. In this way, the project is not just about fixing a car, it is also about creating entertainment and building a brand that in the end, the decision to take on such a project would depend on careful planning and analysis. If Armstrong were to consider it, he would first need to have the car fully inspected by experts. Understanding the true extent of the damage is critical. Next, he would need to confirm that parts can be sourced and get clear estimates of the costs involved. It would also be wise to plan for unexpected expenses, as projects like this often go over budget. At the same time, he would need to think about the content value and how much interest the project could generate online. If everything aligns, the damage is reparable, parts are available, and the numbers make sense, then it could be worth the risk. This is not just about rebuilding a car. It is about bringing back a piece of automotive history. The Pagani Zonda 760LH is more than just a machine. It represents craftsmanship, performance, and a unique story that connects it to one of the greatest drivers in the world. Whether or not Matt Armstrong takes on this challenge, one thing is clear: this car deserves a second chance. And if someone manages to bring it back to life, it could become one of the most talked about restorations in the automotive world. When you look deeper into this situation, it becomes clear that this is not just about fixing a damaged car. It is about making a high-risk decision that could either lead to massive success or a very costly mistake. For someone like Matt Armstrong, every project is a balance between passion and business. He has built his reputation by taking broken supercars and turning them back into something amazing, but those cars, even at their worst, usually still have parts that are easier to replace and systems that are more common in the automotive world. This time, however, he would be dealing with something completely different. The Pagani Zonda 760LH is not just rare, it is unique in a way that makes every small detail important. If a single part is damaged, there is a high chance that it cannot be replaced easily. It may need to be specially recreated, which takes time, skill, and a lot of money. This alone changes the entire nature of the project. Instead of a rebuild, it becomes something closer to a full re-engineering process. That means more uncertainty, more delays, and more chances for unexpected problems to appear along the way. One of the biggest concerns in a project like this is the structural integrity of the car. Modern hypercars like the Zonda use a carbon fiber monocoque, which is incredibly strong but also very sensitive to damage. Unlike traditional metal frames that can often be repaired or reshaped, carbon fiber structures behave differently. When they are hit hard, they can develop cracks that are not always visible from the outside. These hidden weaknesses can make the car unsafe if not properly addressed. Considering that this particular car has been involved in 2 separate crashes, the chances of deep structural damage are much higher. Engineers would need to use advanced tools and methods to inspect every part of the chassis. If they find serious damage, the repair process could become extremely complex. In some cases, sections of the structure might need to be completely replaced or rebuilt, which is not only expensive but also requires a very high level of expertise. This is not something that can be done in a regular workshop. It would likely involve working closely with Pagani or highly specialized technicians who understand how these cars are built. Even then, there is no guarantee that the final result will be exactly the same as the original. Another major challenge comes from the car's mechanical components, especially the engine and transmission. The Zonda 760LH is powered by a naturally aspirated V12 engine, which is already a rare and valuable piece of engineering. If the engine has been damaged in either of the crashes, repairing it would require access to very specific parts and knowledge. The same goes for the manual gearbox, which is one of the most special features of this car. Unlike modern automatic systems, this gearbox was designed to give a pure driving experience, and it is not something that can be easily replaced. If internal components are broken or worn out, finding replacements could take months, if not longer. In some cases, parts might need to be custom-made, which adds even more cost and complexity. This means that the rebuild is not just about fixing visible damage. It is about making sure every part of the car works perfectly, just as it did before. For a car of this level, anything less than perfection could reduce its value significantly. Then there is the financial side, which cannot be ignored. Taking on a project like this requires a huge investment up front, with no guarantee of profit. The purchase price alone could be very high depending on how much interest there is in the salvage market. After that, the cost of repairs, parts, labor, and time can quickly add up. It is very easy for a project like this to go over budget, especially when unexpected issues appear. Even if everything goes according to plan, the total cost could reach several $1,000,000. This raises an important question: is it worth it? The answer depends on how the finished car is valued. On one hand, the connection to Lewis Hamilton adds a lot of prestige. On the other hand, the fact that the car has been crashed twice could make some buyers hesitant. However, in the world of high-end collectors, stories like this can sometimes increase value rather than reduce it. A car that has survived multiple accidents and been carefully restored carries a unique history that cannot be replicated. It becomes more than just a vehicle. It becomes a story that people are willing to pay for. For Matt Armstrong, there is also another factor that plays a big role: content creation. His YouTube channel is built around the idea of taking on difficult challenges and showing the entire process to his audience. A project like this would attract massive attention. Millions of viewers would be interested in seeing how such a rare car is brought back to life. Each stage of the rebuild could become an episode, creating a long series that keeps people engaged over time. This kind of content has real financial value. Advertising revenue, sponsorship deals, and increased channel growth could help offset some of the costs of the project. In fact, the exposure from such a high-profile rebuild could be worth as much as the car itself. This changes the way the project is evaluated. It is no longer just about buying and selling a car. It is about creating a story that people want to follow. And in today's digital world, a powerful story can be just as valuable as a physical product. In the end, the decision comes down to risk management. If the damage is too severe, or if parts cannot be sourced, then the project could become a financial disaster. But if the car can be rebuilt successfully, the rewards could be huge. Not only could the car regain a high market value, but the journey itself could become one of the most talked about automotive stories in recent years. For someone like Matt Armstrong, who has built his career on doing what others think is impossible, this challenge fits perfectly with his brand. It is bold, risky, and full of potential. Whether he chooses to take it on or not, the story of the Pagani Zonda 760LH will continue to capture the imagination of car enthusiasts around the world. And if someone does decide to rebuild it, they won't just be fixing a car. They will be bringing a legend back to life. What makes this situation truly special is not just the car itself, but the story that surrounds it. In the world of rare automobiles, stories matter just as much as performance, design, or even price. The Pagani Zonda 760LH is already one of the most unique cars ever built, simply because it was created specifically for Lewis Hamilton. But when you add everything that has happened to it, the crashes, the repairs, the change of ownership, it becomes something even more powerful. It becomes a symbol of risk, recovery, and second chances. Many collectors are not just looking for perfect cars. They're looking for cars with character, history, and emotion. This Pagani has all of that in a way that very few vehicles can match. It has been driven by a world champion, damaged in real-world situations, and now stands at a point where it could either fade away or be brought back to life again. That kind of story is rare, and rarity is what drives value in this world. If Matt Armstrong decides to take on this project, he would not just be restoring a car, he would be continuing its story. Every step of the rebuild would add a new chapter. From the moment the damaged car arrives in his workshop to the final moment when it drives again, the entire journey would be watched by millions of people. This creates something very powerful. The audience does not just see the result, they experience the process. They feel the challenges, the setbacks, and the victories along the way. This emotional connection is what makes content truly engaging. People are not just watching a car being repaired, they are watching a story unfold in real time. And because this story involves such a famous car and such a well-known driver, the interest becomes even stronger. It is not just about cars and